I will be, I don't have to tell you about the days that we live in. And if you're anything like me, then you probably have very strong feelings. You might even have some fears if you're anything like me. But at the very least, you might feel very concerned. So I feel it is very appropriate to talk about patriotism versus nationalism, especially 4th of July is coming up, but that's not why. It's because of the days we live in. Because I think it is important for us to have as much clarity as possible. And to gain that clarity, I'm gonna take you back. And I'm gonna take you back about 70,000 years, because why not? About 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens did something that other species didn't and still haven't. We began telling stories. I read it once, and I really should know who this originates from. But I don't, so maybe you can Google it, because I forgot to Google it. I read it that the universe isn't made of atoms, it is made of stories. 70,000 years ago, we started telling stories. And we didn't just tell stories around the fire to keep us entertained, but we told stories about our origins, about who we are, about why we are here for, about where do we envision ourselves in the future. And then some of these stories gave us hope. Some of these stories sustained us in ways where love could be at the center. And others' stories put fear at the center. Some stories told us that life is a zero-sum game. And other stories said, no, life is about inclusivity. Life is about expansiveness. Life is about enlarging, making this tent of belonging and inclusivity bigger all the time. Stories that we tell matter. So, nations. You would think that nation is a given thing, but nations are just one of the stories we tell. In the beginning, Homo sapiens lived in small groups, families, few families together, we call them tribes. Then these tribes grew a little bit bigger, and then bigger yet. And the bigger they grew, the more important the story they told became. So when just few families lived together, they all knew each other. They knew why they had to look out for each other. There comes the saber-toothed tiger we have to defend. We have to make sure we all have enough food. We look after each other. But once the group started growing, people started not knowing each other. So what would keep them together? Why would they want to belong in this big group? And that's when we developed the story of a nation. You see, if you dissect a human being, you will not find in our genes the American gene, the Hungarian gene, the Unitarian Universalist gene. It's not there. The reason we are American, Hungarian, Unitarian Universalist, or wherever we feel we belong, is because we subscribed to the story that created that concept. Does that make any sense? Okay. So nations were developed, and then we created borders and boundaries that encircled those nations. We said, this is it, this is ours. Another nation, that's theirs. So again, what story the nation tells is very, very important. One nation can say, and you know, so I am Hungarian, and I grew up in Transylvania, and the first 19 years of my life, I lived under communism, which is an authoritarian regime. It's not fascism, it's communism, but authoritarian regime. And I can tell you what an authoritarian regime feels like. I can tell you the story an authoritarian regime tells. And I can tell you that that story, and the story I hear more and more from our government today, is very much alike. An authoritarian regime would want you to believe that we are great because we are. That's it. Don't question it. If you question it, you are disloyal. You are a traitor. You do not belong. An authoritarian regime is very busy creating just this weird, strange purity test. Only these people belong with us. The rest don't. And they don't just not belong with us, but they are less than us. We have reasons to look down upon them. And furthermore, they are the cause of all your problems. If it wasn't for them, you'd be doing just fine. But there they are. And then once you take care of that group, guess what? We find the next group. And then the next group. Authoritarianism/nationalism offers simple solutions for very complex problems. It just offers, though. It never delivers. It can't deliver. For instance, global warming is a very complex problem. What is the solution that nationalism offers? There is no global warming. Can it offer a solution, therefore, for global warming, which is actually very real? It cannot, because it denies it. But it's simple. It's crazy. Only the crazy people say, those crazy libs say that there's global warming. You needn't worry. And by the way, if there was global warming, guess who would take care of that? God, who created it. You don't have to worry about it. God will sort it out. If God allows it, God will also take care of it. Stories. And these stories are powerful because, well, we believe in them. And whatever we believe becomes our religion. And what do we do with religion? We practice it. We show up. We find the people who think alike. We find the people who are willing to buy into the same story. And then we practice it. And then be aware of the stories you believe in, because some tell you that if dear leader said so, you don't even have to worry about thinking anymore. All you have to do is subscribe to whatever dear leader says. You can leave your intellect, check it at the door. Because dear leader said so. Stories. That's what we told, stories. Now, what is patriotism? Patriotism, I would probably define it that it is love with accountability and compassion. Patriotism is this. I live in Michigan, and I pay my taxes. And I am happy to pay my taxes. And then my taxes make it possible for somebody in Colorado or in Texas, Washington State, to drive on good roads, to get health care, to get good education, and I'm happy to do that, even though I will never meet this person. I don't even know that they exist. But my money, my contribution, because of the story that I believe, my contribution supports their life, and I understand that their good education is for my own benefit. Therefore, I happily pay those taxes. Now, the nationalist would be, why would I pay for your education? Figure it out. I care about my education, and I care about my children's education. Maybe. But this is what I care about. The decisions I make are for me, not even for my children. My children can sort it out, their own lives. So patriotism is the one who cares about another in a very large society. So imagine that we were able to overcome our tribalism and grow into a nation as large as the United States, for instance, 320, 30 million people. It's a story that keeps us together. But now we have contradicting stories. One says we need to batten down, we need to surround the wagon, and we have to fight those who are not like us. Nationalism is a zero-sum game. My winning must depend on you losing. And if you win, it means that I just lost. Now imagine how many here are married. How many here have ever lived in a relationship? Imagine if you treat a relationship as a zero-sum game. Think about that. A zero-sum game. You're winning, it means I am losing. And the only way I can win if I make sure that you lose. Would we have even more divorces than we have today? I think so. Relationships cannot be a zero-sum game. Never. There is that story in the Old Testament. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Bible, but there is a story in the Old Testament where Moses comes up to the burning bush, and he realizes that he's in the presence of something holy, something really significant. And then the burning bush speaks, and Moses says, "Who are you?" And most Bibles translated, "I am that I am." And in fact, I read this by some rabbi who said a truer translation is, "I am who I am becoming." I am who I am becoming. A nation is always becoming. A patriotic nation is always becoming. A nationalistic nation was great back there and will be great again. A patriotic nation looks at the past and says, wow, we've done great things and we've caused tremendous hurt. We have caused so much heartache and suffering, and we care to address that and heal that. And we want to build the future on this healed past. We want to heal the past. A patriotic nation is accountable to the past, acknowledges the good, also acknowledges the bad. A nationalistic nation, an authoritarian nation, says, no, we were great back there was nothing wrong with us, and by golly, we'll make it great again. And if anybody says otherwise, they are not patriots. It's very interesting that the nationalists like to claim that they are patriots. They totally confuse the two notions. In fact, nationalism and patriotism are two very different things. In 1988, who are here old enough to remember the wall in Berlin? Yeah. In 1988, the wall came down. And in 1989, psychologists did a study. They collected children from Eastern Berlin and Western Berlin. And they did a study. And they asked them, please draw us pictures that contain the wall. The wall is part of the picture that you will be drawing us. And the East Berlin children, in their drawings, the wall showed up as like an ugly monster. Big, ugly monster. And in the drawings of the West Berliner children, the wall showed up, well, much like nothing. To them, it wasn't scary. You see, nationalism needs walls. Patriotism will look beyond them. Nationalism needs walls. Patriotism looks beyond them. Also, a nation, a patriotic nation, understands that we are not alone on this globe, that we are part of this global togetherness. Therefore, as we care for our own nation, we must care for the globe as well. We also understand that the well-being of other nations is in our own interest. A nationalist nation, an authoritarian nation, cares about itself, it says. Us first. But that is also not true. Because in fact, nationalist government, an authoritarian government, serves nothing and no one but themselves. And the people become the pawns and the peons that they play against each other. There is a difference between nationalism and patriotism. And our Unitarian Universalist faith gives us really no choice but to be good patriots. Because good patriots, for them, love is in action with accountability and compassion. And what did you read at the beginning of the service? Also here, in our community, the story that we have created, the story that we wish to make strong and we wish to speak and we wish to spread, is that love is at the center. Is that we wish to bring all people under this tent, and that we wish to increase this tent all the time. Because what is it, all of us, that we truly want is belonging. Belonging. So our faith will have us serve that where love is at the center. Where we can truly belong. And again, here is a problem. So think with me a little bit, process with me a little bit. You've noticed that there's a lot of lies that come from up above from the government. It's just lie after lie after lie. And then we, the Democrats, we, the Unitarian Universalists, then we spend all this time trying to debunk the lies, and we fall behind. And I've been thinking about this, like, why is this happening? Have you noticed this? Okay. Well, how difficult is it to come up with a lie? Like that. You come up with it, you say it, then you say it often, then you convince other people to say it for you as well, and then it spreads, right? How difficult is to come up with the truth? That's expensive. You have to do research. You have to spend time looking at this side and that side and the background. Truth is very, very expensive. If I want to write a book of fiction, I just sit down and I write a book of fiction. If I want to sit down and write a book about the life of President Lincoln, I have to go to the archives, I have to read a lot, I have to spend maybe years to educate myself, to immerse myself in the life of President Lincoln. And that's the problem, that lies are coming and we try to debunk them with the truth. And I think that is, we need to shift the paradigm. So when we decide that that's a lie, we say, that's a lie. And then when they say, no, it's not a lie, then we tell them, well, prove it. You prove it, not me. You prove it that it's not a lie. You spend all the time, and not me. And instead, we can come up with a story that is so much better than any of the lies they have ever told. And the story is that human well-being shouldn't be judged by one's bank account, but it should be judged by one's happiness, by having healthcare, free healthcare for all, by having top-notch education system. That's what human well-being should be judged by. Our story is that we believe that all life is precious, all of it. And not just the people under this roof, but the people who are outside this roof, even if they think alike or they don't think like us. Because David Francis says we must not all think alike to love alike. We tell a story that is so inspiring that more and more people are willing to sign up to it. And that must be of patriotism. That must be of that where love and care and compassion and a commitment to equity is at the center. And where we understand that being a patriot and criticizing the government or criticizing the system, in fact, is an act of tremendous love. It's a love that demands for the system to change, to better support its people. It is not an act of disloyalty. When the people walked in Selma, they didn't do it because they were bad patriots, because they hated America, but in fact because they called it home. They said, live up to the story you've been telling us. And let us also belong, and let us also feel that we are equal, that we have all the rights that the rest of you. We hold you accountable to your own ideals. There is a difference between nationalism and patriotism. And our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to be patriots. The theologian Niebuhr said that nothing worthwhile can be achieved in one lifetime. Therefore, we must be sustained by hope. Nothing worthwhile can be achieved in one lifetime. Therefore, we must be sustained by hope. So lose no hope. And together, we shall keep each other hoping. I went to the No King protest, and in Kalamazoo, and there were thousands of people out there. And I was walking around, and I thought, oh, I barely know anybody here. And well, that's just so strange. I am just, wow, I barely know anybody here. And then I thought, how wonderful. I barely know anybody here. So that means that I'm not alone in this fight. I'm not the only one seeing what I see. I'm not the only one who has to carry this by themselves. But people are coming out of the woodwork to protect this nation that offers a better story, that offers a story of love, of respect, of hope and compassion, as opposed to fear, degradation, discrimination. Nationalists pretend and they cover themselves in the flag of the nation. But in fact, that flag is not big enough to cover all the shame, all the pain, all the misery that they cause. So let us be the people who are willing to love, and love inconveniently, and speak our truth, and walk our talk in these days, in these scary days. So these children, to whom we told stories to be lions, may have a future that is full of love, of inclusivity, compassion, respect, kindness, and hope. And so it is.